Have you ever picked up your PMP exam study guide, taken a look at it, and you saw references being made to tasks and domains that you're not able to track to any documentation? If that has been the case, let's walk through the PMP exam content outline. This is where the secrets are. This is a free document that you can download from PMI's website. Going straight to the table of contents, you see that they break this down into an introduction, the content outline itself, and then domains at a high level before going into the domains proper. So let's jump into the domains. You've got people, process, and business. A lot of study guides make reference to these three domains. These three domains are not going to be found broken down like this in the PMBOK guide. These domains are as follows on the exam: 42% people, 50% process, and 8% business. Now, be aware that about half of the exam will represent predictive project management. The other half will be agile and hybrid. So what this means for you as an exam test taker is to read the outline, understand what they mean by people. What are the tasks in people? Manage conflict. Where do we find managed conflict? Chapter 9, predominantly in the PMBOK guide, but you also find chapter 9's reference to it in some shorter format in the very beginnings of integration in Develop Project Charter. So while we blow out everything to do with managed conflict in chapter 9, references made to it earlier on in the PMBOK guide in chapter 4 in Develop Project Charter, where we talk about managing conflict as one of the interpersonal skills that's used. So this could be blown out to hours and hours of training for managing conflict, but you got to keep it brief. And the way to keep it brief is by going straight to the chapter where this is talked about in the most robust fashion. And that is chapter 9. You've got avoid, smooth, or accommodate, compromise, or reconcile. All of those five that we talk about there. The one we refer to as force in, force or direct, collaborator, problem solve, all of them. You got to know all of them. But this is not going to be an explicit map. So there's a second video that I'm going to share with you after this. And after watching this, go watch that video to understand more about the mapping. But the overall concept is for domain, people know about managing conflict, leading a team, supporting team performance, and of course, all the enablers that follow it, right? Empowering team members and stakeholders, ensuring team members and stakeholders are adequately trained, yada, yada, on and on, all the way to the end. There are 14 of them for people, but that's just one of the domains. You also need to know those for the process domain, executing the project with urgency, required to deliver business value. Why do we do that? Well, that stems from a very agile oriented lens. So you need to know agile. Again, my second video is going to go into this a lot more. But the bottom line is, if you're looking at a study guide and they're saying in the process domain, task 3 for assessing and managing risk, if you attempt to look this up in your PMBOK guide, you will be stuck. Don't do it. Okay. My suggestion to you, though, is to read through. And if you've really done your homework, you should be able to map whatever is here to specific chapters in a PMBOK guide. For example, task 1, I could map back to chapter 1. I could map it back to chapter 2 in some way. I can map task 2 to chapter 10, task 3 to chapter 11, task 4 to chapter 13, task 5, I could map to partly chapter 7 and partly chapter 9. Plan and manage schedule, I can map that to chapter 6 in the PMBOK guide. Task 7, quality, map it back to chapter 8. Task 8, scope, map it back to chapter 5. Integrate project planning activities, map it back to integration. Specifically, develop project management plan, manage project changes, map it back to integration, but specifically perform integrated change control. Yes. Task 11, plan and manage procurement, map it back to chapter 12 in the PMBOK guide. Manage project artifacts, map it back to chapter 4, manage project knowledge and other ones. Determine appropriate methodology. This is chapter 1 straight up and in the Agile Practice Guide. Governance, chapter 2. Project issues, I can map that back to a number of places, but I'll map it to direct and manage project work because that's where we get the issue log. And I can also map it back to 8.2, because that's where we have the DIGCIV approach. And specifically for our friends from our client who asked this question, we have developed robust training about the DIGCIV approach. That might be a little bit too much firepower for the PMP exam, but it is going to help you understand what it means to address a problem. Ensure knowledge transfer for project continuity. This can be found in, again, chapter 4, manage project knowledge, and other places. Close project or phase as well. And this one, plan and manage project or phase closure. This is straight up close project or phase. So you see, while it is not explicit, you can trace these back to knowledge areas, chapters, and even sections in the PMBOK guide or the Agile Practice Guide. Here's another one. Going back to the people domain, where we have leader team and we have value servant leadership. This can map directly back to the Agile Practice Guide because there is a section on servant leadership there. There's also mention of servant leadership in chapter 3 in the PMBOK guide. You beginning to understand, you will not find an explicit map in your study guide or in the PMBOK guide to these domains. They're all over the place. And that's why PMI tell you the PMP exam is based on a wide body of knowledge. And in order to understand this exam content, you should be looking across many different publications. All right. So again, I'm going to do a second video and I'm going to go into a lot more depth. But to round up, talking about the business environment, understand about compliance, understand about value. That's the Agile name, value. That's the name of the game. Evaluate and address external business environment. This is talking about EEFs straight up, chapter 2. And task 4, support organizational change. This is a smattering of topics in the Agile Practice Guide and the PMBOK Guide. The bottom line is you should understand change at different levels, organizational, project, program. It's going to help you. But ultimately, we talk about projects. We want to understand, how does the firm's culture affect the project? And how does the project affect the firm? All right, this is just part 1. I'm going to send you part 2. I hope it clarifies this topic for you. Take care. Bye for now.